right, it's your Geordie Journal's back for a little bit of a what was it?
We're wearing the same clothes. What we're doing?
Yeah, we're scruffy. Scruffy buggers at the Geordie Journals, still sitting in the same place. No, of course,
3 days.
3 days. You will know that obviously sometimes in these international breaks you've got to do a little bit of content and get it all together at the same time. We're all together, so we're having a little go. And what we want to talk about today is very much the idea of how Eddie Howe turned around a season that was faltering. And we're going to go in depth a little bit on the 5 or 6 main reasons as to why we think Eddie Howe has turned things around. Right, I'm going to come to you first, Dom.
Okay.
Give us let's start from the top. Give us what the main reason that you think Eddie Howe has managed to turn around a team that, although the Premier League is very tight, they were faltering, they were slipping slowly down, having got off to a reasonable start.
Yeah.
And it felt, I think, what was the game we would say where it really felt a challenge? Chelsea away, where we went in, really. We all said, between us, this isn't right, and it needs change.
Yes.
To be fair to him, he delivered.
Yeah, good managers find answers, and the criticism we've had of Eddie Howe previously was, does he have those answers? But the past 3 games, he's definitely found it. We'll have to caveat that with it is only 3 games. Football can change quickly, but we'll have to be really impressed with what we've seen from Newcastle. The results they've got, the performances they've put in, the way they turned things around against Nottingham Forest, where the defensive performance they put in against Arsenal, having taken the lead, and then Chelsea as well, even though Chelsea B team, if you like, blew them away as well and were convincing at both ends of the pitch in that game. And I think the big reason for that is the person who's started all 3 games in, some would argue, not his natural position, but I'm sure you and a lot of people would argue is his best position, Joe Linton, moving him from centre midfield, where he is a powerhouse but not necessarily the most technically proficient player, to the left wing, or in the case of Forest, moving him out to the right wing in that second half where he scored from. He has helped transform Newcastle these past 3 games. Newcastle look so much better and so much more balanced, and then the midfield in turn has improved, and we'll get onto that. But Joe Linton, his physical prowess, his ability to just press from the front, the way he, as you've put it, is a defensive forward, defends as high up the pitch as possible, if you like, and has just helped Newcastle get a bit of breathing room and really transform them, I'd say, and refreshed Newcastle and took us back to when Newcastle were a good team and were successful under Eddie Howe, were at their best arguably that second half or back end of the 22-23 season where they qualified for the Champions League. I think it's been so refreshing to see. It's been simple from Eddie Howe, and it is only 3 games, but it's given us plenty to believe in moving forward.
Yeah, I couldn't have put that any better myself, really, in terms of the guy is a beast, and his technicality sometimes lets him down in the midfield, but out wide it doesn't matter so much. So there's those little technical deficiencies in some ways. If mistakes are made, he's 30 yards further up the park, and it doesn't damage you as much as it maybe did when he's picking the ball up in the edge of your box, which a lot of the big Joe Linton mistakes, I would say, apart from his misses at that end of the pitch, have been where he gets caught on the ball, or he isn't quick enough of feet and mind to turn out of positions, which I think you have to be in that position. So I'm going to take that on a little bit, and it kind of connects. So I think my big reason for the turnaround in recent times, I think, has been the legs and energy that Joe Willock has brought to Newcastle United's midfield.
They work in unison.
Yeah, I've not always been a person to absolutely champion Joe Willock. I think he's of a certain level. I don't think he's top class. But one thing you cannot fault with Joe Willock is his athleticism. He eats up yards, he's quick with the ball, without the ball. He doesn't really give you a defensive shift at times, but it's not missed as much when Joe Linton tucks in, and it's not missed as much. I don't want to spoil the thunder of the Lewis Hall thing as well, but Lewis Hall, it's just a lovely balance down that left-hand side, and I think Willock's legs have given Newcastle a different dynamic. That there isn't anybody else in that set of midfielders that they have. Tonali, Longstaff, Bruno, Miley, Joe Linton, if you want to put in that mix. There isn't really anybody like Joe Willock. He's very unique, and there is a real time and place. He's a good sub if you need him, but he's actually shown in the last 3 weeks, I think he can really impact games from the start as well. To a point, there's always come a point in the game where he's ran his race.
Yeah, hasn't played a lot of football.
To be fair to the lad, he had barely really kicked a ball until recently for the last year or so. Had so much bad luck with injuries, but I think his energy and legs, I'd love to see him improve on his quality. I think that's the big thing about Joe Willock, and it stands for Joe Linton too, is unfortunately sometimes you're never going to be able to get to that level because they haven't got that consistent quality with the ball. But Willock can produce moments in games which we haven't really seen from him since he's come back, but he's got that in his locker, and I think he's been outstanding.
Should we stay on the left hand side then?
Go for it.
Lewis Hall. I mean, what a transformation. 12 months ago, wasn't in the team. I think he was hooked in 4 of his opening 5 games at half time.
Yeah.
To think where he is now, called up the England squad. There was at the start of the season, was it going to be Lloyd Kelly at left back, was it going to be Lewis Hall at left back? Well, Lewis Hall's won that battle, an absolute canter. And that's not because Lloyd Kelly's a bad player, it's because Lewis Hall's been absolutely outstanding. I can't praise the lad enough. Haven't spoken to him, and I've spoken to this previously, I haven't spoken to him in Germany. You could sense the struggles he went through, sort of a loneliness moving up from London.
Proper football friends moment that.
It was.
Will you tell that one?
Well, it wasn't a good day for Blythe Spartans. I like to plug Blythe Spartans all the time when I can, but yeah, Lewis' brother Connor plays for Brackley. Connor was at Croft Park, so was Lewis Hall watching with his dad from the stands. Brackley won 5-0 to relegate Blythe Spartans in April, I think it was now. But yeah, I thought it was a little icebreaker for Lewis to talk about his brother, because I've seen his brother quite a lot. He used to play for Chorley as well, so I've seen both the Halls brothers in action. But going back to Lewis Hall, just as I say, to the struggles he was at 12 months ago to where he is now, I don't think you can underestimate how much that would have took mentally to get through that. So he was literally going back to his house where he is in Newcastle by himself while his family was still down south, not getting in the team, constantly being told he's having to work on his game. He's not watching this channel necessarily, but there was obviously,
I hope he is.
Defensively we had question marks over Lewis Hall.
Yeah.
I'm sure Eddie Howe would have been the same. I think probably he's even admitted that himself, that he had things to work on defensively. And I think 12 months on, I think he's starting to look like the complete left back. Look, I don't think he's fully there defensively. I think he's still got a lot to improve on. Still in 19, but I think we've seen a better balance from him. He's really good at going forward. Lovely technical ability, lovely left foot. But we're starting to be that defensive side as well. Coming up against Bukayo Saka, coming up against who was it for Chelsea? Madueke.
Yeah.
And then even coming up in a pacey winger and Elanga as well. So he's faced some difficult opponents and stood up to the challenge. So
outstanding that.
He's a big part of the reason, as you mentioned, about the balance on the left hand side. You've got 3 quality players on that left hand side.
It's what makes me more excited about Newcastle now than perhaps what we were 2 years ago, because okay, that team was performing brilliantly and this team may never perform to that level, but there was limitations with Dan Burn at left back, whereas here you've got possibly the 2 most exciting young English fullbacks or wing-backs even in the Premier League, in Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento, who has also improved after a tough start to the season. So yeah, Lewis Hall and it has just brought a bit more excitement, a bit more forward thinking and attacking intent from left back, and then really quality on the ball as well. And as we've seen in the past few weeks or this season, really brought real defensive nous to his game as well.
So get your thinking cap on, Dom, because I'm going to come to you next for the next moment. But before we do like, comment, share, subscribe. Do get involved in the conversation if you agree with our points on where Eddie Howe has turned things around, where he hasn't. Let us know. We'd love to get you all involved in the conversation. Forwardless Financial Planning obviously sponsor these videos, and you can get all the details down there if you need any financial advice. And of course, we are recording this from the Brandlin Arms, which is, you can see the sign there behind us, as we do quite regularly. They're so kind to host us here in their room upstairs. You might hear some noises in and around because it's actually busy today. It's not been recorded at 10 a.m. in the morning, but kind thanks to them and for their hospitality. Right, next point, Dom. Where do you think is the next one that we can sort of say, a point there where we can say that's the reason?
I think you probably look at the top of the pitch and go, Alexander Isak, who wasn't really getting a sniff in front of goal at the start of the season. He had that tap in against Spurs, injured himself. Since he's returned, has been on fire. Even that Chelsea game where he was probably had one of his worst games for Newcastle, still managed to score, and since then scored every game since.
But the thing about that game though, he was involved
he was
so much,
everywhere,
and
wasn't
that's the thing that maybe Isak have passed has been a criticism. It's like, get yourself more involved. He was trying to get involved in the game, almost to his own detriment. It was too much, and he was to blame for a lot of the mistakes that happened in that game.
He still looked like a player who was still a bit in his head, but the past 3 games he scored goals almost without thinking about it. The Chelsea game, that's what he needed. Arsenal header, brilliant header, probably one of Newcastle's best goals we've seen this season, and then a well taken strike against Nottingham Forest as well. So yeah, I think it's been really good to see him get back amongst the goals. 5 goals this season now, 4 in his last 4, 40 goals for the club. He's, as we've said on our live stream, I think he's one of the best strikers we've seen at the club in terms of actual quality. Still got more to come, I'd like to think, from him, because he's still only 25, still got a good few years left on his contract. And yeah, he is such an important player for Newcastle, and we've seen, we can talk about the likes of Bruno, who we could get onto as well. Those key players have really stepped up these past few weeks, and Alexander Isak getting back amongst the goals and showing he is the top quality striker he is these past few weeks has been vital to Newcastle's turnaround in form.
Right, so I'm going to go next, Jordan. Sorry, you're going to have to do a little bit. You're going to have to do a little bit of thinking, but there's a quite obvious one if you think about it, which will be controversial to people out there.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So my one is going to be, I think that we've seen a different side to Eddie Howe. I think he's looked within in the last week, and he made the kind of changes from the cup game, which I didn't think it was just changes for change's sake, because of it was a cup competition and rest players, etc. I thought it was a very distinct change in approach and the way that they wanted to do things, and it was the first shadows of Newcastle United of old, of 22-23. It made a big difference. Just him changing, tweaks, alterations. It was the kind of changes that we haven't really seen from Eddie Howe. And I'm not one to sit here, I don't want to believe that it was just cup game changes. I seen enough in that game. It was like flicking a switch. It was very different to what we'd seen before. We'd seen Newcastle try to control games, try to do X, Y, and Z. That was just a switch to flick the switch, and all of a sudden it was like, for 20 minutes, half an hour, it was like, oh, this is us again. We're back here. And then it kind of faded, and it was a bit of a backs to the wall job at times, trying to keep Chelsea at arm's length. Then Arsenal was real backs to the wall, but it was again very similar to what type of performances we've seen at St James's Park. Yeah. Then Forest was the real one. It was like, this is Newcastle United. This is the brand. This is Eddie Howe's brand at Newcastle United. That this team is physical, it's strong, it's quick, it'll run you, it'll take everything you've got to throw at it, defending really solidly like they did in that first full season, and we'll hit you, we'll get you straight back. It was brilliant. Like, that was the best 45 minutes, the most enthused I've been by Newcastle United, and I include virtually all of last season in this as well. There's very few 45s compared to that for me. Almost in a complete, looking at the system and the ethos and the thought process behind it, that was the brand. And I think if Eddie Howe would be honest with himself, he'd probably say the same thing. Like, translate that 45 minutes. That is what I want from Newcastle United. We controlled on someone else's patch, dominated, they were informed players. We not only controlled you, but we hammered you as well. And we put the nail straight in the coffin, like they'd done to previous teams. And in a manner in which they hadn't done in that season. So the amount of games we came away, Brentford, Aston Villa, loads of games in that 22-23 season, where it was like, God, how have we won 4? How have we won 5? Like, we couldn't work out how. That was the complete performance, in my opinion. It was not only are we going to blitz you, but we're going to dominate you in doing so. So for me, that was, if Eddie Howe, I think he could put a 45 minutes in a microcosm, he would translate that every single week.
Yeah.
Right. I teed you up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
you don't have to say
no, I'm not going to go down that route, but I mean, I think the midfield balance has been a big reason for it. I think Sean Longstaff, who you were talking about, yes.
I was going to, I can talk about Longstaff if you want. But I think
I'll come on that, but I think they went back to basics. They went back, and I think you sort of touched on there, but they went back to what they're good at. and what they're good at is what they've done at Nottingham Forest in that second half. I think maybe at the start of the season there was maybe subconsciously they're trying to change things a little bit, maybe trying to play a little bit more possession based. Yeah. Whereas I think Eddie Howe even sort of admitted after Forest, where I think he got asked about a possession based style,
yeah, he did,
and he said we've got to improve to do that, but sometimes you've got to look within and what you've got. And Newcastle have built a squad that plays on the front foot and plays on the counter attack. And I think we're seeing that at Forest, and that spirit and determination as well, and just being hard to beat. The something housery I think came back as well. So it's just going back to what you're good at, because it's always been there. But I think maybe what they were good at was sort of half-arsed that season, if you get what I mean, at times. Whereas for the last 3 games, I've actually seen what they are, and that's what they were 2 seasons ago. And that for me is Newcastle's best style. So I think that sort of ties in with your point.
Well, my point was on, I think, bringing Sean Longstaff in. I don't think Sean Longstaff is the reason Newcastle United are winning games. However, I do think he's a reason why the team functions better.
Yeah.
And it gives them more of a chance to win games. So I think that's where Longstaff comes into me. But I also think that ties in and goes back to your point on Isak. I think when Bruno Guimaraes plays well for Newcastle United, the midfield functions so much better. Yeah. And I think he likes Sean Longstaff alongside him.
Yeah.
I think he loves Tonali, he's his mate. But I also think he quite likes Longstaff being in there because
there's other running.
He does a lot.
Because Bruno's biggest weakness is having to run back.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to run his back
as much. He's improved recently in that.
He looks fit. I think he looks lean. He looks fit.
Sean Longstaff in terms of recovery runs is probably the best, I would say he's probably the best.
Yeah.
In that midfield.
This will not silence the critics, by the way, because they'll all be going, well, how many goals does he score and how many tackles does he make? However, he does a lot of work that if you just look at just football superficially, it only tells a part of the story. He does the role that he's asked to do in the team, and it means those around him can flourish.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it?
Right.
That's our points.
Yeah.
Any others? No, I didn't think so. So that's our points. Sure. That's our points on where we think Eddie Howe has turned around a season that was in danger of slipping away. Mm-hmm. There'd been some pressure put on him, and he was the man asked to find some answers, and as you said, he found some answers. Let me know what you think of our points in the comments. If we've missed something glaringly obvious, come and tell us, shout at us in the comments and let me know. If you agree with what we've said, also let me know. We like the positive as well as the negative. So, right, like, comment, share, subscribe for all your Geordie Journals content, and do let us know as we head into a second international week. There is, of course, the build-up, whether you'd like me to do any more live content, whether you'd like me to do any more videos and the topics of conversation too. So do let us know.